Alexandra, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Lucy.
So you have your podcast all about art. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is it? I think that the ethos behind it, it's actually very exciting. But I'd like to hear you tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I launched the podcast in 2021. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a COVID baby.
Okay.
I was working from home, working at Sotheby's Auction House, and I was doing my master's degree.
Cool.
And it was all very interesting. I was working, I was studying, but I felt like I was really, really far away from the professional art sector that I wanted to grow into, that I wanted to learn more about.
Even while you were technically working in the professional art sector?
Yes.
Interesting. And then quick question, what were you doing at Sotheby's exactly?
At the time I was working in the bids department.
Cool.
And so that was more on the operations side of things. Mm-hmm. So if anyone has ever seen an auction, there's normally one or two people next to the auctioneer typing furiously on a laptop. Mm-hmm. That was me.
They fascinate me, those people. I'm just like, I cannot type. I can text that fast on a phone, not on a laptop.
Yeah.
There's 7,000 spelling mistakes.
I mean, there are systems in place that thankfully help us like be really quick. But when an auctioneer is going from one increment to the next increment incredibly quickly, you have to just be really, really fast.
Yeah.
By the end of my time at Sotheby's, I had the privilege of being able to travel. I was sent to Geneva. I was sent to Beaune in France to do a wine sale. That was intense.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. They were auctioneering in French. And if someone says 90 very good. Like I was just like, oh my gosh.
Shaking.
Yeah, it was nerve wracking. But at the same time, it was an incredible learning experience for me. But as you can probably hear, there wasn't that much of art.
Yeah.
It was great. It was really great market experience for me, like to learn. It was great to learn about being in a fast-paced environment. And it was great to learn about the structure of an auction house because being in bids, you kind of get the overview of all the different departments of when there's
how
sales.
Is art actually being sold?
Yeah, exactly. On the secondary market.
Yeah.
I just felt really far away from that. And so it was almost out of a selfish motivation as well, but it was very much like, how can I learn from people who I really admire, learn about what they do? How can I ask them about their jobs or about their career paths, but also possibly give something back to the sector that I love and disseminate that information in an accessible way for people to be able to listen to in their free time and to be helpful for people within the community.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And then that was the birth of All About Art.
It was. Yeah. I mean, it started off, God, I've been running it for nearly 3 years now.
Yeah. Congratulations on that, by the way, because that is dedication. I mean, I heard this statistic that most podcasts don't make it past 10 episodes.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I remember hearing it and just being like, well, now I have to make it at least 11.
Yeah.
No, we will. We'll keep it up. But no, good for you, dude. Like that's a big accomplishment to do that for 3 years. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, so much has changed. Like it has developed and morphed, and I've learned so much. Like I was telling someone earlier today, actually, I was saying like in the beginning, I kind of didn't fully know what I was doing. I didn't understand the power of also really understanding my niche and what I was trying to do, and also communicating that in a way that reaches audiences.
Yeah.
So like in the beginning, I was very much like, oh, I'm just trying to get this general overview of the sector. And when I would introduce myself, I'd say, oh, I'm doing this as my full-time job. And it took a couple of people at like networking events and stuff who introduced me as Alexandra, and she has a wonderful podcast. And I was like, you know what?
That must have been so exciting to hear that.
Yeah. And it led me to realize that I needed to actually start introducing myself that way.
To know your value.
Yeah. And to recognize that the project that I'm doing has value and it does contribute to the arts community.
Damn straight it does.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely something that I find as well, is when you're doing your own thing, to speak generally about it, when other people recognize a thing that you're doing, almost, I don't want to say before you, but maybe around the same time that it's starting to set in for you, or you're really trying to find your feet, and someone else gets it, it sends little earthquakes through you, because you're just like, oh my God, okay, cool, like let's keep going. It's such a great motivation
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it was like, there is a difference between being humble and really not owning what you're doing. And I think, unfortunately for me, it was the latter a little bit. I think I was nervous. I was nervous to admit what I was doing. I was nervous to have it out in the world. I was nervous for people to hear my voice.
So with All About Art, can you tell us a little bit more about the ethos exactly and like what you're doing with it?
So the ethos of All About Art, to bring it really down to one line, which I took nearly 3 years to get to, by the way.
Fair
so
enough.
for anyone who's starting a project.
So you didn't start with the same, I guess, thread that you're weaving with now.
I think I did, but I hadn't realized it.
It wasn't solidified.
It wasn't solidified. Gotcha. I wasn't able to articulate it in the way that I'm able to articulate it now. And
that takes time. So
it does. Yeah. It does. And I think I was scared also. There was that element of fear to boil it down to one thing.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes I had this willingness or this eagerness to be liked or accepted by everyone who might be listening. So, okay, who could be listening and it would interest these people or it would interest these people. But in reality, I found that my real passion was interesting those people who wanted to start a career in the arts. And so the ethos of it is to demystify the professional arts sector. And it's mostly aimed at an audience who is interested in going into the arts professionally or those within the first, I'd say, 1 to 5 years of their career. So those who don't really understand the sector fully, who don't really understand or feel like they can really get some transparency on what types of jobs are out there, who does what do people's jobs look like?
What do you even do?
Yeah.
Because not everyone's a dealer.
No.
And what even is a curator?
But
do they just hang stuff? Like, what do they do?
Exactly. What is it?
You have an idea. Like, I mean, I'm speaking generally.
Yeah,
like, there's an idea. Like, okay, like an art historian, they know the history of art. What is a curator? They put things together, put shows together, sure. But like, what exactly does that entail? You know what I mean? Like, those are so many questions that I feel like people have that like I even sometimes will still have, or I know it, but I'd like someone else to tell me, which is what's cool about your podcast is people will straight up say like, I'm a curator at X Gallery and I do this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool, I got it.
Yeah.
Like, we're on the same page now.
Yeah.
And then you realize that it's not that crazy.
Yeah. No, you're not dumbing it down.
Still a job.
It should be. It should be that way, because that's the thing. That's what's demystifying about it is that you're bringing it down to the fact that it's not this like, I don't know, something that people don't understand. It's not a unicorn.
It exists. Like, you can.
It's an actual sector.
Do it.
Yeah. And something that like, I mean, this is going kind of
legitimate job.
It is. And going off on a bit of a tangent, but like still in that same vein, there was something that I read in an article. The director of the Royal Academy made a point about how there are plenty of organizations in the arts that have a board. And on this board, the board is comprised of people who have really high positions in finance, in law, in, you know, all of these other sectors that, let's face it, are looked at as more quote unquote legitimate sectors. And so then we look at their sectors and we look at who's on the board of their companies. Do you think that anyone from an arts organization is on the board of some big finance company or some...
Not really.
No. It's not as legitimized. And so I think in part, the demystifying of the professional arts sector will hopefully lead to a legitimization as well in people's eyes. Yeah.